Thank you. I think we're going to work on another group cleanse beginning of November. So we'll get some information about that. Detox before the holidays for those who celebrate. And yeah, I think it'll be good.
Okay. Is that all you have?
That's all I have. Of
Yeah, I have an announcement.
course you do.
Patty is going to be a mother-in-law.
Oh, yay.
She's all excited. She said she's going to be the best mother-in-law in the whole world.
Right. It's
And
me.
then she told her future son-in-law, you have to detox. I think that went right out the window, that best mother-in-law in the world. But so anyways, congratulations to Patty. Actually, they're getting married 1 year from today.
Right. October 15th.
October 15th. Unless I can talk them into running.
No way. No way. They're great.
So congratulations, Patty.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to start out by thanking everybody for being here and our Friday night live with John and Patty, and we couldn't do it without you. Again, if you ever know somebody that would like to tune in, just let us know so we can send the link and get people aboard. Tonight, we're going to talk about food. You know, is there anybody out there that, you know, has a problem with food or eating? I can't see people, so I don't know if anybody's raising their hand. But most people have some type of relationship that's not always good with food. We have a tendency to use food as a mechanism for our stress, for our fun. And oftentimes we kind of look at food as, you know what, it's about the only thing that I have that's really fun to do and it's legal and who cares? I've heard things like life is too short to worry about what I eat, et cetera, et cetera. The only problem with that is food kills if we don't do it right. So obviously food plays a big role in our life. And what we need to do is we need to understand that what we put in our body when it comes to food determines our health. So many times we eat when we're not actually hungry. And basically that's a trigger. And our trigger is being caused not by the fact that we're hungry, but by the fact that there's something else going on. Now, not everybody uses food, and we're going to talk about food, but some people use alcohol, some people use nicotine, some people use drugs, etc., which triggers the same thing, and they do it because there's another problem. And it can be things that are internal or external. What I mean by that, internal can be our thoughts. Internal can be our boredom, those kind of things that internally we're troubled. Oftentimes when people hold things inside, they don't release, they don't let other people know issues going on. So they, instead of opening up to people, they kind of trigger things in their mind and they use that for comfort. External can be, you know, different things happen, parties, and people have a tendency to go to functions because it opens a door for eating. It opens a door to do things that we might not really want to do in our mind, but you know what, I'm here. So there's a party, there's a buffet, they're serving things, so I'm just going to eat. And most of the time when we do it, we're actually not hungry, but when we do it, it leads to an imbalance in your physical and mental health. Now, obviously eating, unlike drinking or smoking or drugs, we have to eat. And that's the one thing that makes food a whole lot more difficult to work with, because you basically have to eat. Unfortunately, most of us eat a whole lot more than what we really need to. When we start talking about how much we need to eat, we have to think about our body. And when you come into the office and we do a Zyto scan, oftentimes we can tell you how many calories you really need. But most of the time, if we eat right, we don't have to worry about calories. But when we eat on a trigger basis, most of the time we don't care what we eat. It is food. I want to have something. I feel hungry because the food is in front of me. So we don't really look at the good things. And most times when we go out, whether it be parties or functions, the food is not, it's not good food. Most places don't just serve vegetables and fruit or something like that. It's the cheeses and the crackers and that type of thing, okay? So what we're gonna talk about is, what is your trigger? And later on, we're gonna get into different types of eaters. And what I would like to do is, if you would, message us. Nobody else will see it. You just message to us. And when we go through it, tell us what type of eater you feel you are, if you feel you have any issue with food. That way, as we talk to you and we work with you, we can kind of have that in mind as we try to help people with, whether it be weight loss or the general health or whatever it is, to be healthy. All right? So oftentimes the triggers are unresolved emotions, things that we carry. There's an old saying, never go to bed angry. Why? Because a lot of times when we do that, we have a tendency to eat before we go to bed because we're upset, we're angry. I want something, I just need something to make me feel better. Sometimes we eat because it's a certain time of the day. And you know what, it's dinner time. Even though I had a big lunch, I probably ate too much for lunch or whatever, I need to eat because it is dinner time or it's lunchtime, etc. We don't think about I'm hungry, we just think about the time of day. Or as I mentioned earlier, events. Okay, we go to an event and because the food is there, we have to eat. And I don't know how many times I've heard people tell me, I can't do a program this time of year, or I can't do a program or a detox this week because I'm going to go to my parents, I'm going to go to grandma's, I'm going to go somewhere. And if I don't eat, they're going to be offended. And really what we're saying is they're going to be offended. So I have to do the things that aren't good for me just to make them happy. And that's kind of a really bad habit to get into because then we don't care about ourselves. And I don't think in the long run that somebody that really cares about us, somebody that loves us, would be overly upset, especially if we notify them in advance that certain things we don't want to eat or we can't eat, are upset because you don't eat. So that can happen. Unresolved stressors can be things like almost like unresolved emotions to a degree. But things that basically stress you out. Anybody out there eat when they're stressed or overeat when they're stressed? And then of course, routine becomes time of day, that type of thing. It's just a routine that I eat. I fall into the bad habit of getting home, whether it's 5 o'clock, which doesn't happen very often, or 8 o'clock, and I say, I'm home, so it's time to eat. I want to eat. Even though I know that the later time I should not, or I should not eat very much, but I get into a habit. The routine also can be when people go out to eat and they come back home because they just walk in the door right away, the mind goes into this is when I normally eat. So they'll open the refrigerator, they'll take another look to see if there's something in there that they want. So let's kind of take a look at what kind of eater we are, okay? The first one we're going to talk about is the emotional eater. And again, we'd like to see some messages coming back and forth if you have questions or if you want to tell us what you feel, which one of these you are. The emotional eater. Emotional response is because something happened and it triggers your brain to do something that maybe you normally do when you get upset, or, and it doesn't even have to be upset, it can be celebration. Sometimes when people say, my daughter's getting married and we're going to celebrate this, and what do? Sometimes we eat. So emotions doesn't have to be a negative emotion. It can also be a positive emotion that we do things that perhaps doesn't fit with what we should be doing for our body. So the first thing you want to do is, on virtually all of these, is to stop. Okay, just stop and think. And for emotional eating, because it is emotions, you want to take a 10-minute, don't do anything for 10 minutes. Don't eat. Just put it away and say to yourself, I'm not going to eat now. I'm going to put it aside. And then you want to go into a breathing exercise. Now, again, you can listen to this again. You can take notes. If there's information here you want, we in the corporate sense will get it to you, okay? But you need to breathe. And we've talked about this before. Breathe, 4, 7, 8. Take a deep breath for a count of 4 seconds. In your mind, you just count. 1001, 1002, etc. Hold it for a count of 7. And then exhale slowly through the mouth for a count of 8. And what happens is you relax the body. Whether it's a positive emotion or a negative emotion, we get excited. The body gets in, the brain kicks into gear and says, this is what you should do. So if we stop, very much like if you get angry at somebody, you don't say something, you take a moment, you breathe. And before you say something, same thing with eating, stop. Don't do anything. Wait, because that emotion will pass. That'll just pass by. So you take a little bit of time and think about, what is that emotion? What is the emotion and what is the value of the emotion? So you think about it while you're drinking some water. Why water? Because water is a filler. Water will fill you up. It'll make the stomach feel full. It'll give you some fluid in your body. And the breathing and the water actually generate oxygen to the brain. Very much like emotions, when we're upset or some of that, we got to get oxygen to the brain. So then for 5 more minutes, do something that makes you happy. Do something that you enjoy. Now, again, because we're talking about not eating, that does not mean cut a piece of the chocolate cake, okay? We're getting away from the food. So you take a little bit of time and you listen to some music. Make a phone call to somebody you enjoy talking to, not the person that's going to annoy you or aggravate you. Somebody, a friend, somebody that you can just chat with. Or take a relaxing bath, go for a walk, something that you enjoy doing to let that emotion pass. Because there's an old saying that says, time fixes everything. Same thing with unhealthy eating. If we stay away from it, you let it pass, and that feeling, that need will be dissolved. Same thing if you're at a table and they bring desserts. If you just don't think about the dessert, but you think about something else, you think about the person sitting next to you, the person that is, that you want to talk to, or you want to visit with, or you want to enjoy the music, whatever it might be. If you take a few moments, the idea of eating that peach cobbler or chocolate cake or whatever it is will pass. But if you see it and you pull it before you and you start eating immediately, you're not going to stop eating it until it's gone. All right. Unfortunately, almost everybody around you, if you push it away or you say, no, thank you, I don't want it, they'll tell you how you deserve it, etc. But what happens is most people don't control their emotions, and most people would prefer that you fall into the same boat that they're in, because that makes us feel better. We always feel more comfortable in a crowd than we do individually. But once you do it and you don't eat the food that you normally would have, you will feel good about yourself. And there's nobody I've talked to that when I ask them, when you don't eat or you take care of yourself, do you feel better? everybody says, I do, I feel better, I'm proud of myself. And that helps the emotion switch from maybe a negative emotion to something that you feel good about yourself. So that's the emotional eater. Is there anybody have questions on the emotional eater? If you want to ask questions. Okay. If you do, message if you, whatever. Okay, habitual eater. The habitual eater is basically dinner, lunch, breakfast. That's what I eat. And I don't care how much of it I eat. I have to have breakfast, I have to have lunch, and I have to have dinner. So we have to understand that we don't need always to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It does not have to be a plate full of food. Some of us were raised that way. I was. You ate breakfast. When I lived on a dairy farm, you came in for lunch, and then dinner time, you had dinner. And as a kid, you sat down and you had the dinner or lunch and breakfast. And if you didn't want it, you ate it because you had to eat it. Okay. We don't throw food away. I've heard a million times when I was young. Do you know how many kids there are in China or wherever it was that would love to have this food? I didn't dare tell my parents to package it up and send it, but that would I'd have been sent. But anyways, that is the thing. We have to get away from that idea. If we're not hungry, we don't eat. Again, stop and ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I hungry? Oftentimes it'll be no, you're not hungry. Again, drink water, wait 10 minutes. Do something again that you enjoy doing. The walk for 10 minutes when it's lunchtime instead of eating. Visit with a coworker or make a phone call if you're at home. Wait that 10 minutes and then ask yourself, are you still hungry? Oftentimes we eat because we're bored. You know, it's lunchtime and I'm bored. There's nothing else to do, so I want to eat. But there's so many things that we can find to do that we can do. If you have a project that's waiting for you to do, do that. And by the time you get your mind involved and away from that idea that it is lunchtime, then you're not going to pay any attention to it. You're not going to be hungry at that time. Most of us eat way too much. Earlier I mentioned, do you realize that the average female only needs 1,000 calories a day? 1,000, that's it for the average, okay? Now, depending on weight and different things that can fluctuate, and I can always discuss that with individual people. Men need 1,200 a day. Now, if you think about 1,000 calories or 1,200 calories, that's not a lot of food. When I was overseas in Vietnam and the Philippines, I used to watch people eat, and the portions of rice they had was tiny. And I used to think, how do they get full eating that rice? But in reality, servings are very small, and they should be small. It is said that in our country, if you go to, for example, an Italian restaurant, you get enough pasta really for about 6 servings. And well, I'll say me, I can sit down and eat that and clean my plate up and look like I licked the plate, by the time it's done. And I have always had no problem with that. So I know I wasn't hungry for all those calories, but what happened was I would get into a habit of eating. And a lot of that happened because when I was young, that's the way it was. You just ate at certain times and you had to eat. Otherwise, you must have been sick or something. So wait a little bit and then ask yourself, am I hungry? Okay. True hunger. What is true hunger? Well, true hunger isn't saying, oh, it's noon, it's lunchtime, okay? It's I'm getting up in the morning, it's breakfast time, or I'm home from work, so it's dinner time. True hunger, the physical manifestations are hunger pangs. Now, I'm going to tell you this, the first two that you see on the screen, hunger pangs and stomach growling. If your stomach is growling, That means your body is sending you a message. And that message is, I want fuel. Same with hunger pangs, okay? I want fuel. The problem is that most of us carry more body fat than we need. So the body is saying, give me more, or I'm going to have to burn some of this body fat that I'm carrying. So most of us feed that. We feed it, and then we say, okay, I'm hungry, my stomach is growling, put more in. Well, that's your body saying, thank you very much. And if we put more than we need, those calories, then we store more fat. So a lot of times people will tell me, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I'm not eating bad. Well, you cannot gain body fat if you're not putting in too many calories. It is 100% impossible over time to gain body fat if you're not eating, period. All right? That's like saying, I'm not putting gas in my car, but the gas tank is going up. That's impossible. Can't do that if everything is working right. Now, the low energy can come into play if we need to eat. But my old saying, as I've said to some people, if you honestly believe that you are starving because your stomach is growling and you have hunger pangs, okay? If you honestly believe that you have to eat or you're not going to survive, take 2 minutes, not the 10 minutes, take 2 minutes, disrobe, walk in front of your mirror, look at your body unclothed, and you look at that and you say to yourself, am I going to die of starvation if I don't eat? I'll tell you, I can look in the mirror and know absolutely I'm not going to starve to death, okay? So the thing is that we have to understand our body and what our body wants to do. Our body does not want to get smaller on its own. It wants to grow. A lot of times low energy means that your sugar is low. And if you have low blood sugar, you're going to have lack of energy. You're going to have feel faint perhaps. And people misconstrue that as saying, I need food. No, you need to balance your blood sugar. And how do you balance blood sugar? You put something in your body that the body can metabolize and balance the blood sugar. So it could be a piece of fruit. It could be some vegetables. It could be our instant meals, but something simple that will restore that energy. Most people misconstrue low energy as I need to eat rather than my blood sugar's dropped. And that's two separate entities. It is not that you're hungry that you're having low energy most of the time. It is because you are, your blood sugar is off balance. Okay. So now, I think our internet's a little slow.
Yeah.
Okay. External eater. Okay. External eater means what? You see certain foods and you want it. Now, a lot of times when we're an external eater, it's because of poor health. We need the sugar, we need the salt. So when we see sweets, we see the bag of cookies, we see the Girl Scouts coming around and selling the cookies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We just cannot stay away from it. And this is probably one of the harder things because, like it says on top of the screen, if you're an external eater, you're a marketer's dream. You see it, it'll trigger your brain and you will eat it. And that is why they put candy by the register. So when you're checking out, one of the last things you see before you're ready to pay is the candy. It is different things like that. You walk in the store, and a lot of times as soon as you walk in, they have the pastries and all that. That is a trigger. So as soon as you see it, we want that food. So when you walk into a store, what you have to do is steer away from that department. We've talked a lot about how to shop. Outer parts of the grocery store. There's not a lot in the middle or at the cash register that's going to be good for you. But again, when you see it, you have to stop. You have to stop yourself and think. All right. There's a lot of things in our life we love to do, but we just know it's wrong. So you have to stop and say, why would I do that? You have to remove those items from your sight. Now, here's the key. If you buy the Oreo cookies, or you go and get a dozen donuts, or you go get the bag of chips, you are going to eat them when you get home. Because if you're an external eater, which a lot of us are, and some of us are a multitude of these, we will buy things, and I'm talking about when I was unhealthy. I used to buy all kinds of stuff and say, in case somebody came over. Well, nobody ever came over, okay? But all the stuff was gone. So every time I'd go shopping, I'd buy just in case somebody came over, but I was the one that was coming over, all right? You have to get those out of sight. And it takes time. If you do this for a period of time, pretty soon you will not want them. There'll be instances where your brain will kick in and you'll say, oh, I really like it, but it's easier to say no to yourself. And most of the time we have to say no to ourselves. If you don't have it, you can't eat it. So a lot of times people tell me, well, you know, I ate this because. I say, why was it in the house? Well, I bought it for the kids, or I bought it for the spouse, or I bought it for whatever. No, that's a cop-out, okay? If you shouldn't eat it, you should not be buying it. If somebody else in your household is, and you know that you can't resist, you have to tell them, I don't want it in the house. If it's in the house, I don't want to see it, and please don't eat it around me. If we care for somebody enough, we will do that. But you have to get it out of your sight and out of your mind. And the other thing you have to do, you have to have healthy options. Whether it's events or unexpected moments, people stop by, have healthy options. Because if you want to have something for people that come over because you say, you know, I just, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I like to have, I don't know, tea and cookies or whatever it might be. Okay, but you have to have something for yourself that you're going to enjoy. And I'm not saying gnawing on a raw carrot while they're eating Oreo cookies and dipping it in milk or some of that. You have to have something you enjoy to do, to eat. That will take away from your mind that I need to have that sprinkled chocolate covered donut over there. All right. So the longer you stay away from anything, the less you're going to want it. The less it becomes the external aspect of yourself. When you see something, you want it. And that goes for anything in life. The longer you're away from someone, the less you're going to be tempted to go back to a bad relationship or anything like that. Food is the same way. Treat it the same way. Stop, think, get it out of the way, breathe, and tell yourself why. Why would I not eat that? So one side says, I'm going to eat it because it tastes good. The other side says, no, I'm not going to eat it because it's harmful to me. It's harmful. Why would I put something in that's toxic and harmful when I know better? All right. So please try to think of that when you are looking at sweets and things, and that's the external eater portion. Okay, the critical eater. Okay, that's the person who is on and off. All right, on and off dieting. Sometimes, this week I'm dieting. Somebody told me today, I was working with somebody, they said, I think it was their parent, was one week was eating keto, the next week not. Then the next week keto, the next week not. That doesn't work, all right? First of all, if you're a critical eater, then you have to say, I'm either in or I'm out. There is no halfway. In everything about our life, whether it's your health, whether it's your faith, whether it's your relationship, whether it's raising your children, it's either you're in or you're out. Tell me some of those things that you can say, I'm in this relationship this week, but next week I'm not. And then the following week we'll get back together, etc. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You have to commit to a lifestyle that you want. Why? Because if you want to be healthy, you have to do the right things all the time, not partial. All right. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that forever and ever and ever in your life, you can never have something that is not quote unquote 100% healthy. That would be foolish. But until you get to a point where you want to be, you need to commit 100% of yourself until you hit that goal. Because until you hit that goal, you don't know if you can make that goal. But once we hit a goal, then we like that goal. And then it's so much easier to maintain. So it says 100% until you hit your goal, and then commit 90% of your efforts to maintain that goal, to be where you're at. Not hit the goal and then say, celebrate, okay? And then we get off track. And the next thing you know, 6 months, a year later, somebody walks in and says, I need help again because I didn't maintain. So what we have to do is understand there is room for some treats. There is, but it can't be every day. It can't be all the time. It can't be a lifestyle. The lifestyle has to be that's a treat, not a routine. And when we get to that mode, pretty soon that treat, you'll want it less and less and less because you'll feel so good about yourself. And the way to do that is to track everything you eat. You have to know, what are my portions? Now, I'll get into a little bit more about that because I don't really like to track what I eat, to be honest with you. I believe that if we eat the right foods, we don't have to track because you will maintain good health. But if you're not there, and you're working to achieve 100% of your goal, then you need to track, you need to document, and you need to scold yourself when you don't follow your plan until you reach your goal. It's okay to scold yourself. People say, oh, you shouldn't do that too hard on yourself. No, you're too hard on yourself when you're sick and you're overweight and your clothes don't fit and you've got headaches and you're fatigued and you can't sleep because of poor health. That's what we need to be upset with ourselves about. And 90% of it is what we put in our body, period. In a conversation, it's what we put in our body. We do it, nobody else does it. We have to get away from the idea that somebody made us eat it. Nobody makes you eat anything. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. If they are, you've got to tell somebody in authority because that can't happen, okay? We do it because we're easily sidetracked. If you love yourself enough and you want to take care of yourself, just like you take care of your spirituality, just like you take care of your relationship, just like you take care of your business and your home, you've got to do it at least 90% once you have hit your goal and closer to 100%, okay? So don't be a critical leader. Don't be yo-yoing. Oh, the holidays are coming, so I'm not going to, I'm on vacation, so I can do this. And you know what? That's what vacations are for. None of that stuff is designed to sabotage or to make yourself unhealthy. We don't go on vacations to hurt ourselves. We go on vacations to relax. And you relax by taking care of yourself with rest, relaxation, getting rid of stress, and eating properly. Okay, now we're going to get to the essential eater. Okay, the essential eater is you're in love with food. You just like food, all right? And it doesn't really matter what the food is. I just like food. And as I go through this, and in fairness, Patty put it all together, but as I thought, there's 3 or 4 of these I could say I am. I love food. I call myself a seafood eater. I see food, I want to eat it. except cottage cheese and olives. Okay, other than that, I'm a seafood eater.
And capers and.
Oh, yeah, capers too. I can't do those. Okay. Loving food is okay. And we'll probably always love food because we have to eat. But what has to happen is, it's what foods do we love? What do we really, truly like to eat? And when we differentiate what I like to eat and what I don't, should be based on your health. What is making me healthy and what isn't? So for most of you out there, why don't you drink a quart of wine every night? Okay, I'm not going to insult anybody that might be doing it, but nonetheless, you do it because you say it's not good for me. So we have to do the same thing with food. We have to say it's not good for me. Let me love food that's going to help heal my body. Let me get recipes for things that I can make and put on the table that's going to help me heal my body and keep me well, rather than just saying, I just want food. And I know a lot of people that just want food. So you have to understand, before you start eating, you have to determine, what am I going to eat and how much am I going to eat? And then you have to commit yourself to only eating those foods and those portions. All right. So give you an example. You buy a bag of raw almonds and you say, okay, these are healthy. That's fine. However, we take that bag and we set it beside us. I'm guilty, so I can tell you this happens. You set it beside you. For me, it's driving my car because I drive so much. And I'll just be snacking those almonds. The next thing I know, that bag is half gone. And the better way to do it is you say, I've got 10 almonds. That's what I'm eating. That's it. The bag is put away. It's not open again until the next day or whatever it might be. Okay, that's my snack. So when you do it that way, you're eating the foods that are good for you, but you also have to be cognizant of the portions and how much. Because if you're truly trying to lose weight, you can't eat too much of good food, healthy food. You can eat too much. Now, you cannot never eat too many vegetables. You cannot. Your stomach would explode, okay, before you could eat too much vegetables unless you're putting the wrong things on it. I was talking to a woman yesterday who's working, trying to get well, and she said, I eat 3 salads a day, but I like Caesar salads. And I buy the Caesar salads that's already pre-prepared with the dressing already on it. What she doesn't realize is the stuff that's in that dressing, and people can actually gain weight by eating salads because of the dressing, because there's so many calories and so much garbage in most of the dressings that we don't realize it. And in our brain, we're saying, I'm eating salads. But then we have to understand what is in it and how much should I eat. And then obviously, while eating on any of these, slow down your eating. Do you know somebody that just eats? I mean, they just shovel it in, okay? It looks like they're hardly even tasting it. You have to slow down your eating, take time to eat, and whatever portion, it's going to take me this amount of time to eat it. You have to be cognizant of the idea that we don't sit down to eat. Most people eat on the run, I will admit, but you need to take the time to eat. And if you're on the run eater, you need to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait till I get to a place where I can sit down and eat and take my time. Chewing food, not only for the health of it, but that will take up time. And the more we chew, the better the enzyme activity, okay? So we need to learn to chew. And I know most of the people that have raised kids say, slow down when you're eating. Chew your food. Dogs gulp it, swallow it, and then they look for more. We're not that way. We have to take our time, chew it, and slow down. So you'll get more texture ideas, you'll get more flavor, etc. But it'll also help us not to overeat. So essential eater, I'm one of those, I love to eat. I love to eat, okay? So these are the types of eaters. So what type of an eater are you? Does anybody want to send a message or say something or give me an idea of what you're thinking?
Anybody want to unmute and share, or you can just message us?
Okay, Heather.
Heather?
I think of all those external eater. So I don't have a problem if I'm at the grocery store. I can look at it, but as long as I don't buy it and bring it home, I'm fine. But if it's in my house, I don't have much self-control.
Agree. Agree. When it's right in front of you, it's hard, so hard. Okay, so anybody else?
All right,
Okay,
somebody
somebody-
messaged if they're a combination of all of them.
I can see that. I mean, in reality, a lot of those overlap, okay? If I see food, I want to eat it. I like to eat the one I'm probably least anymore is I have to be, I'm not a habitual eater. I've gotten away from that, the habitual eater. I can have lunch, not have lunch. I can have an instant meal anytime. I've kind of got away from that, but the rest of them, I think, and the yo-yo dieter, I'm not that either, but the other ones, I think I'm pretty much. Maureen, how about you? I know she can hear us. Maureen?
No,
You're-
unmute.
You're muted.
Emotion.
Okay, emotional. What triggers your emotions?
I don't know.
Anything.
Why are you looking at Ed? Okay, emotional eater. So when you get an emotion or when you're emotional about something, good, bad, you have to take a step back and take a deep breath. You have to, if we realize what triggers it and we understand it, then we can control it, right? So you can step away and say, you know what? My instinct is to go to the refrigerator or get a slice of bread or a bag of chips. But because I feel this way, I know not to do that. And what is the opposite of that?
What's the opposite?
Of
Emotion.
Go for a walk. Burn some calories. Okay? Rather than put the calories in because you're upset, just say, you know what? I'm upset. I'm frustrated by something. I'm just going to go burn some calories. I'm going to go for a walk. All right? But most of the time when you become that type of an eater, emotional eater, you're putting in too many calories and bad calories, and you're not going to go for the walk. Right?
Right.
You want to think of the opposite. What would be the opposite of what I really want to do? And normally that's going to be a better bet in that case. Who else?
I think
Go ahead.
I'm usually forget to eat, and by the time I remember, I'm so hungry I could eat just about anything that's in front of me. Although I do have really good willpower about not eating bad food, but I usually probably eat more than I should when I finally do eat.
And because I know Kim, she does keep her body fat and everything in very good for a good number of years. So, you know, that's what we're going to talk about here in a minute, is that if you eat right, it's okay. Now, is it the best idea to overeat and be overly hungry? No, because most people can't control that, okay? The other part is planning. If Kim plans what she's going to eat when she gets home and she's famished, then she's able to control it. But a lot of us, me included, I'll be really hungry and you go home or you think to yourself, there's nothing at home. So you stop and pick some up and then you eat that because you're overly hungry. And that's the bad habit. So if if you're going to be overly hungry, make sure when you go to wherever you're going to eat, it's good food that you don't have to worry about that you're going to overeat. Even if you overeat more than you want, at least it's good food. Okay.
Well, I don't have any bad food in the house, so that's easy.
Right. Right. Somebody just said, what was it?
Oh, the other one was, all right, Lori.
Lori, I'm glad you
Good to
could
see
join.
you.
Sorry you have to leave. Hope everything's good at home.
All right, so I'm a social eater and sometimes a habitual eater.
Okay, so a social eater and a habitual eater, probably not the best combination, because a lot of times we'll find reasons to socialize so we can eat. All right, and a lot of times what happens is we get with people for the idea of eating rather than the idea of socializing and visiting. So you really have to understand, why am I visiting Patty? Am I visiting her to eat, or am I visiting her to enjoy her company? And you make sure that, first of all, when you socialize, it's for the relaxation of being with somebody else. And then if they care enough about you, they don't care that you don't eat so well. I mean, that you eat well and they don't, perhaps, okay? So you want to be with those kind of people that are not going to try to force you to eat the way they might eat. And that's important. And even family, I'd say family and close friends are the worst culprits. And we do it under the guise of, I just love you. Let's just enjoy. Let's just do this and that. And at some point you have to say, no, it's not good for me. All right. Anybody else before we go on? Carol, either one of our Carols on?
Oh, one of them, I don't know which one already commented.
Oh, okay.
I think one of them said that's one of them said a combination.
Combination,
Is that you,
okay.
Carol? Shaking her head.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Salah, do you have a comment? Kind of eater you are?
Sure. I'm probably a combination of, like Kim said, I forget to eat most of the day. But under certain circumstances, I can and will binge, and I guess that's typically emotionally tied. But yeah, I'm definitely guilty of not eating. And then, yeah, and then the result is you binge in order to make up the calories.
Okay. So before we go on to the next part, I want to see a show of hands, because I can see somebody can see. How many of you detox, and when you get done detoxing, you really feel good because you feel energized, you feel you haven't eaten, you ate the days you could eat, you ate good, and now you're reset and you feel good about that. How many of you have experienced that? Okay, here's the key to it though. The best way to reset your cravings is to do a detox. If you're off track and you've got to do a detox, even if it's not 3 months since you did one. Okay, you need to do a detox, because that rejuvenates and it helps the brain to get away from the idea that I have to have such and such. And then, but once you're done detoxing, then what you have to do is you have to say to yourself, I'm not going to go back to what I was doing that made me need to detox. Okay? Because we all know when we're eating too much. Too much or the wrong foods. We know it. And if I had $1 for everybody who said to me, I'm just so off track, I could retire comfortably. All right. So detoxification, reset the cravings. Don't be afraid to do it more often, because that resets. The best way to keep your body healthy, whether it's the mind when it comes to food or anything else, is by resetting and by doing a detox. And it doesn't have to be a 10-day, okay? It does not. It can be a 3-day liquid. But if you want to do a 4th day, fine. But You got to get into that and take away those cravings. And it's, your brain has got control of you and saying, we need. Just like when we cleanse and we change things, then what happens? The brain goes, I don't need it. And after you're done with your detox and you have that vegetable soup, that is the best tasting food you've ever had in your life practically. Every time I've detoxed for 20 some years, that vegetable soup is just fantastic. Or that first instant meal I have, it just tastes so rich and so good because you cleaned everything out and your taste buds are alive and your digestive system is alive. Things are broke down. But unfortunately, we have a tendency to slide back. We have to tell ourselves to stop doing what we did that made us unhealthy and start doing the things that keep us healthy. So Dr. Nelson, who developed everything that I do and know, has stated that detoxification is one of the most important factors in the promotion of good health and disease prevention. Okay, so I'm going to ask everybody, if you want to message me and tell me what this is one of the most important. What do you think the one other most important thing that determines good health and disease prevention? The first one who puts out the one I know is the answer, I'll have a special treat for you. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
Oh, there's somebody.
Okay, Don won. Food choices. Absolutely food choices. Okay, congratulations, Don.
I don't need a prize.
You don't need a prize. Oh, you get to talk to me. Come on. But food choices, it's all about what we put in our body. If we remember that, if we know that if I put the right food in my body and periodically detox, my chances of getting a disease narrows huge amounts, okay? Just unbelievable what it can do, but we have to put it in our head that that's what we're going to do. We have to get in our mind, I am going to eat properly. I could give you every single supplement in that room, in our what we call our well check room, and they would all be good for you, but if you eat horrible, you are going to feel horrible. And that's just the way it is. So food is foremost, okay? So please, and then detoxification, which means you have to drink your water, et cetera, et cetera. So please understand that detoxification will reset, and once we're done and during the programs or after the programs, we have to maintain in our brain, I am going to do the right things to keep myself healthy. So I'm going to go over some foods. We call it the superfoods. These are the foods you can eat and not really at all have to count calories, worry about portions, all this stuff. Kiwi. Kiwi is a superfood. Sprouts. So when you're shopping, and if you want a picture of this or something, you can go ahead and take a picture. If you want something, we'll get it to you. Broccoli. Broccoli is now people say, well, I eat broccoli, I get gassy. That's because your digestive system's up. All right. Raw, plain yogurt or kefir. Full fat yogurt, not the fat free. You can find full fat, 4%. Yes, that's full fat, right? Or 5%?
And yogurt, yeah, 5%.
5%, okay. Now, when it comes to fruit, other than kiwi, is berries. Berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Any of those berries are superfoods. And wild caught salmon, all right? Those are the first 6. Patty, do the next 6.
Okay, and remember, this is if you're not on a can't eater program, because the fruits don't apply. You cannot eat fruit when you're on a can't eater program. Okay, so mushrooms. Mushrooms are really good for the body. They have cancer fighting properties in them. So any type, as long as they're fresh, not from a can, from the button ones up to your portobellos and all your other ones. Coconut oil, a pure coconut oil. unrefined coconut oil. Thank you. Onions and shallots. Avocados. Fermented cabbage. Okay, which I guess another term is sauerkraut, as long as it's made naturally. And then eggs, organic pastured eggs.
And then we have spinach. Spinach is got so many healthy properties, it's unbelievable. Bone broth. If you get good, pure bone broth, grass-fed butter, kale. You notice how many green things there are in there? All right, you've got kale, you got spinach, you got sprouts, you got broccoli. Green is the color you want. And then grass-fed beef, bison, or wild game. But you really want grass-fed. Unfortunately, the meat supply in our country is very sketchy because of the steroids they use, the grow fast, butcher young, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people say, I won't eat red meat. That's your choice. But if you don't, then you want more of the bone broth, or you need more of the salmon, different things like that to generate enough protein or our instant meals. So remember, if you eat mindfully, then all of this stuff is very, very tasty, very good. And you can make it so it's not blah. Mix things together and have a wonderful meals. Okay, now these 13 foods should be eaten in abundance. They are raw nuts and seeds, all your vegetables, fruits, not as much as vegetables, but obviously fruits, especially the ones I mentioned earlier, the kiwi and the berries. Those, if you want to eat fruit and you're not on a Candida program, but you want to eat fruit, then you want those type of fruits. Organic poultry, and what I mean by organic is stuff that's not raised with steroids. Oftentimes when I do the cytoscans, we get all kinds of stuff in there, and a lot of that's coming from people, the meats we're eating. And organic, unpasteurized dairy, if you're going to do dairy. Let me just tell you, we're all lactose intolerant. So I'm just going to tell you that I'm not a proponent of doing, like, even though it's unpasteurized milk, which I guess in most states are illegal anyway, but you know why, who knows, but nonetheless, I won't get into that. But stay away from dairy as much as you can because it does affect the intestinal tract. Yeah.
Okay, so wild caught seafood. So you're good with everything, shellfish, shrimp, lobster, you know, just a nice cod or another whitefish. Wild caught, farm raised isn't that good for you. Like John said about the poultry, farm raised, this has got lots of steroids and who knows what else in it. So you stay away from the farm raised and you want wild caught. And then the other oils that are good are olive oil, avocado oil, and grapeseed oil. And you want first cold pressed or expeller pressed, and it should say it right on the bottle. And then stevia. Stevia, the original stevia, as long as it's just the plant, should be the only ingredient. Stevia has created different versions, and one has maltodextrin in it, which is a chemical sweetener. Why you would add a chemical sweetener to a natural sweetener, I don't know, but probably just stretch it and get more money.
Yeah,
Another one they add to is they have one that's got inulin fiber in it, which who knows what the source is on that.
Or nuts and seeds, veggies, fruit, coconut.
Maureen, can you mute, hon?
Oh.
Thank you. Okay. And then water. Water. We talk about drinking water all the time. Tea and organic coffee. Now, they both have caffeine. Caffeine is dehydrating. Caffeine can rob your body of nutrients, like things like magnesium and potassium. So very limited, don't make it a daily habit to drink coffee and tea.
And that's what we say, once you're not on a program, once in a while you can have those. But it should not be every morning, get up and have coffee all day long, have coffee. I don't care if it's organic or not. Okay, 6 foods to consume in moderation. Okay, moderation. Peanut butter. Everybody loves peanut butter. Okay, but it's not a food that is going to give you a lot of nutrients. If you want peanut butter and you want to get a better choice, get almond butter. Almond butter is a much better choice. Okay.
All right, so beans and legumes. A lot of people who don't eat meat try to get their protein from beans and legumes, which is fine, but doesn't have to be eaten at every meal. And the dried beans. I was gonna say raw, but same thing, right? Dried beans.
You don't have to eat them raw.
This is not from a can.
And then we have whole grains, which is your wheat, rice, oats. Again, it says corn, don't do corn, okay? That gets put into whole grains, quinoa. But the thing is, you don't want white. You don't want to be eating the white rice. You don't want to be eating, when you buy bread and it says wheat, you don't want the white. And when it comes to food, I'm just going to tell you, I tell everybody this, white is not right, okay? It's been bleached, you've lost the nutrition, so you want brown rice, you want wild rice, black rice, stuff like that. Same thing with your wheat. But again, if you overdo it, number one, it's a carb. Number two, it can lead to other issues within the body if you overdo it. This is very much moderation.
Okay, natural sweeteners calls for honey, agave, and pure maple syrup. I use pure maple syrup when I bake. When the weather gets colder, I drink hot water with lemon and maple syrup in the morning. Put a little cinnamon and cayenne pepper in it, and it's the other one, ginger. It's a great drink. Gets me going in the morning. So natural sweeteners.
Alcohol. I'm going to tell you that if a person is healthy, they're not going to want alcohol. Okay. Is it okay to have a glass of wine here and there, or a cocktail once in a while, or a cold beer? Of course, moderation. But I'm going to tell people that come in and tell me that I have 2 glasses of wine every night with dinner because it helps me relax. You're not healthy if you need alcohol every night to relax. Okay. Moderation. Our taste buds change. We're not going to want as much when we're healthy. But I never sit here and tell you never ever have a drink.
Organic pasteurized dairy. So John mentioned dairy earlier. So these things would be like your cottage cheese and cream cheese. And it shows, looks like a little piece of Swiss, but know your body, know how your digestive system can handle the lactose. And we have a question. Charlene, go ahead and unmute.
Now, all these things that you're showing, it could be, we can have these after the detox or after we're done with the program.
Program.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. So here's the 5 foods that rob you of your health, your beauty, your mind, everything. All right. First is refined sugar. Now, refined sugar is in so many foods. That's why when people go on programs, like Charlene just mentioned, it's on a program. You have to be so careful because we have to keep this out of our body. So these are the things that we should not be putting in our body. So when people say, well, if I'm not going to have refined sugar, that really limits what I'm eating. That's a good thing. Okay, that is a good thing because there's too many other things we can eat, but the sugar robs us of everything, our health, our looks. It ages us too fast. We have to get away from it.
Okay, trans fats, right there. Look at that. Looks like Golden Arches French fries and I don't know, maybe a Nathan's hot dog, which I've never eaten. So not the French fries, but the hot dog. So just, yeah, all your fast foods pretty much is all trans fats. All your drive-through places, you need to avoid them.
Okay, and even the stuff you buy in the store, like hot dogs and stuff, they'll label them certain ways, but you've got to read ingredients. Refined grains, that's your white flours,
Pasta.
pastas, all that stuff, okay? Not only are they carbs, but when it's refined, all the nutrients have been stripped out of them. So I've talked to some of you about this, but sometimes you'll buy bread and it'll say enriched. Enriched only means, and how that came about was they realized that if they strip the nutrients out of the grain, it would go farther. So what happened is they started bleaching it out, and then the Food and Drug Administration came back and said, of the 17 nutrients that's in the grains, you have to put 4 of them back in, and if you do, you can call it enriched. So when you buy enriched foods, what's happening is you've lost almost all the nutrients out of it. And that eating this kind of things can cause issues like leaky gut syndrome and different things. People are more apt to end up with diverticulitis and diverticulosis and those kind of things because of the way it's processed through the colon.
Chemical artificial sweeteners. So dextrose and all those words that end in OIC and your maltodextrin and your high fructose corn syrup and anything syrup, brown rice syrup, malt syrup, all that stuff, chemical sweeteners.
And then hydrogenated oils, which again, it comes back to almost all the things in fast foods, especially. But even some of the oils you buy in the store, you want, as Patty mentioned earlier, cold pressed, expeller pressed. The oils, you want them in the darker bottles so the sunlight can't get to them, because sunlight for oil bleaches them out. So a lot of times you'll see oils in the light bottles and a lot less expensive, but it's not nearly as good. So you have to understand what you're buying when you're using oils. And Dr. Nelson talks about, Wally Nelson talks about that 10 grams of sugar, just 10 grams. Now, 10 grams, if you had one of these sodas, you're looking at several hundred grams. But 10 grams of sugar can suppress your immune system for up to 3 hours. So imagine when people buy those big gulps and all this stuff that we do and with the refined sugars in them and eating the trans fat and all this stuff, just imagine what it's doing to our immune system. And that is why when people go through programs, they say, I have energy and my brain is clear, because all this stuff we've been eating and putting in our body, guess what? It destroys everything.
And 10 grams of sugar is equivalent to 2.5 teaspoons.
Yeah. So what do you do? First thing I want to mention is you have to balance your blood sugar. There was a lady in today right before we started this who said her husband is feeling faint and he feels like he's going to fall down and he's this and that. Well, he's diabetic. And I said, if he did 1 instant meal a day and 2 spoons of our Simply Sweet, that most of those symptoms would go away. Even if he didn't want to get rid of diabetes or it was too hard or whatever, it would replace it because it's all about blood sugar. What you're looking at is the instant meals, not gives you protein. Instant meals can fill you. They taste good. I have a chocolate one almost every day for lunch. And the Slenderade balances blood sugar. Most of the time when we're overly hungry, it's because of blood sugar. It's not that we're hungry. So you need to, if you have the Slenderade, carry it with you. Take it before you're famished. Who said that they get really, Kim said, really get hungry and you want to eat anything. Well, you don't want to really get that way, especially if you're working on weight loss, you're working on getting well. you want to balance that sugar and have it and take it before you get to that point. So I carry a bottle in my bag and I just take it habitually because I just don't want my body to go down that road. And the instant meals I use daily. You have something to add to that?
I use instant meal daily as well. Every morning, breakfast. Most days, my breakfast is the instant meal.
Okay, your appetite is in your mind. True hunger is in the body. Okay, so Dr. Patrick Porter, for those of you who've ever listened to our Mind Fit, he's the doctor that speaks into the Mind Fit for us. So we have to differentiate what is appetite versus true hunger. And we can't let our brain get carried away with it and tell us what we want. It's about the body. Take care of the body, you're not going to be hungry. You take care of the body, you'll be eating the right things. Your appetite will change as you get healthy. So think about your health, think about yourself, love yourself enough to take care of yourself and put the proper fuel in your body. Don't just throw something in because you think it looks good, smells good, and you know that you've had it before and it tastes good. Think about what it's going to do to your body, just like you would think about if you're raising children, what they should be putting in their body, what they shouldn't be doing for themselves. You have to think about the same thing for yourself in order to keep yourself getting well and or staying well. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I would like to open it up for any questions, thoughts. I love talking about different topics and different subjects. And I thought the food actually was Patty's idea, really, but as most good ideas are. But she came up with this, and we put it together. So any questions, any thoughts that you want to throw out? Anybody? Was any of it helpful?
John, I have a thought.
Okay.
Something that I have found, and I tell this to my hubby too, because he'll get home from work and he's just ready to eat. He's hungry. And sometimes sometimes we just make dinner together and sometimes I just get going on it. But either way, I think a really great trick to kind of control that appetite right at the end of the day when you kind of have that hunger pain and it's later and you're not going to have a lot of time to digest all that food and you're going to be going to bed, is to drink some MRP right when you get home, and then give it 10 or 15 minutes and just then make yourself something while that's settling in. And I find that I don't eat nearly as much food when I have that MRP that kind of stabilizes all my blood sugars and just cuts those hunger cravings, significantly, so that I can now think rationally about what I'm about to consume.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of a hack that, is really helpful. And then you're actually putting nutrition into your body rather than something that's going to be detrimental or a large quantity of food while you're just famished.
Good idea. Excellent idea. Because like we said earlier, that balances your blood sugar, which when your blood sugar crashes, you think you have to eat or else. Okay. So by doing that, that helps. Plus it's a filler and you're not going to be as hungry once you start eating food. Good idea. Thank you, Don. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah.
Kim?
Yep. I find out that drinking a really cold glass of water does it, because you know why I wouldn't do the other. And a big apple, like I always have apples in the fridge. For some reason, apples, even though it's, got a sugar content in it, it's got a lot of fiber in it, I think is the reason why. So if I have an apple, usually that will do it for me. And I don't really need to eat anything other than that. So it's why I always have apples around, like right within arm's reach, so I don't have to think about it.
And everybody can have their niche of what they like. Some people may not like apples, but some people might like another fruit or a vegetable that you can have handy, but you got to have it ready. So, you can eat it then and not have to hunt around and have to prepare. It's always planning is so important. Fast foods, places, they thrive on people that don't plan because you're hungry, you're tired, and you just want something now. All right. So it's important to plan, have it ready so that it's fast food when you get home. Anybody else? Go ahead, Carol.
I've been wanting to bake a lot lately, but I don't even go to the store to get the ingredients because I don't know what ingredients to use because it seems like everything is not a good choice.
I can help
I
you
don't
with
know what to
that,
do.
Carol. I bake all the time. And I use a gluten-free flour. I use the instant meal, maple syrup. I make chickpea cookies. They're great. And that's the flour, the chickpeas, and it calls for almond butter. And yeah, I can email you some recipes, Carol. You can bake. You still have to, it's a treat. It's still a treat. Even though it's a healthier treat, it's not like, buying or Oreos. Yeah, there's so many things that I make that are really, really good, really tasty. I can send you some emails or some recipes via email. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Anybody else? Going. Okay. So for the people that are on tonight, what I'm going to do is we are going to give like I do